Lagos State High Court on Thursday ordered that Chidimma Ojukwu's co-suspects to enter defense over the allegations of criminal conspiracy and killing of Super TV CEO, Michael Usifo Ataga on June 16, 2021 when the deceased media personnel had love-making moments with the then 21-years-old Chidimma Ojukwu, who made 3 separate confessional statements. These: 1. She single-handedly stabbed Ataga to death. 2. She unintentionally stabbed Ataga to death in self-defense during a fight. And 3. She knows nothing about Ataga's death, saying she went out of the hotel room to buy something, only to come back and met the Super TV CEO lifeless with bloodstains in the hotel room. Though the prime suspect, Chidimma Ojukwu, did not make any submission when the case came up on Thursday, but the second and third defendants for Usifo Ataga murder case, Chidimma Ojukwu and Adedayo Quadri, on Thursday presented a no-case submission to court, demanding that the court should dismiss all charges against them. But the prosecution team opposed the application, stating that they have presented full evidence to court that implicated the DAO. Chidimma Ojukwu and Adedayo Quadri have been in prison since 2021 when police brought up allegations that show they are fully involved in the murder of Ataga Usifo. Justice Yetunde Adesunya of the Lagos State High Court, sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square on Thursday, ordered the 2 Chidimma Ojukwu's co-suspects to open their defense. She and Quadri are facing the first to 8 counts bordering on conspiracy, murder, and stabbing, while her sister, Ojukwu, is facing the 9th count of stealing an iPhone 7 belonging to the late Ataga. The 2 were alleged to have conspired and murdered Ataga on June 16, 2021, by stabbing him several times with a knife in the neck and chest. The incident occurred at number 19 Adewale Ocean Street, Lekki Phase 1, Lagos. According to Punch newspaper, at the resumed hearing of the trial on Thursday, the second and third defendants, who had earlier filed a no-case submission challenging the trial, asked the court to dismiss all charges against them. The second defendant's counsel, Babatunde Busari, and the third defendant's counsel, M.I. Otuaka, argued that the prosecution had failed to establish any material evidence for their clients to enter defense in the case. In his response to the application, the state's prosecution, Yusuf Sule, objected to the submission and urged the court to dismiss the second defendant's no-case submission application. He said, the prosecution has put forward material evidence linking the second defendant to the charges against him. We call upon him to enter his defense. In response to the third defendant's application, the prosecution filed a response on November 27, 2024, as per argument in response to this case. We urge the court to dismiss the application for a no-case submission, as the prosecution has established material evidence of a stolen phone in the case. We, however, call upon the third defendant to enter her defense. Justice Yetunde Adesunya dismissed the no-case submission of the second and third defendants. She ordered them to open their defense. The judge thereafter adjourned the case till February 20, 2025, for continuation of trial. Meanwhile, after nearly 2 years, the autopsy report of Chidimma Ojukwu and Usifo Ataga's murder case was read in court. In line with the testimony of the former Vice-Chancellor of the Lagos State University, Professor John Obafunwa, Usifo Ataga was killed by 2 people and wasn't drugged, as claimed by the police. During cross-examination, Professor Obafunwa stated that the claim by the police that Usifo Ataga was sedated with a death drug, Rohypnol, in a bid to disarm was false. He noted that the quantity of Rohypnol seen in Ataga's bloodstream wasn't enough to sedate him and was insignificant. The forensic pathologist also confirmed that autopsy results revealed that the 2 deadly stabs that killed Ataga were inflicted on his armpit and loss of blood. Professor Obafunwa also noted that a double-edged knife was used during the attack, and there was a high possibility that there were 2 assailants who inflicted the injuries. The former LASU VC further stated that, unlike in other cases, he was unable to visit the crime scene, and the photographs and photos the police sent to him had no connection with the scene. He also debunked the claims of the police that Ataga was restrained during the attack. Instead, he noted that he tried to defend himself, which was why he was stabbed in his palm. Professor Ojukwu also noted that the attack on Ataga was inflicted by a right-handed person. He said this explains why most of the stab wounds and cuts were to the left side of the victim's body. My first contact with the corpse was in July 2021. Death occurred on the 16th of June 2021. I raised alarm with the police on how to conduct an autopsy after over 3 weeks of death. I went further to ask them, is there no scene to visit? Do you have photographs? I had no opportunity to visit the crime scene. The pictures and videos sent to me by the police have no bearing with the scene. It shows just people drinking at a bar, Professor Ojukwu stated. Earlier in 2021, Barrister Franklin Usu, cousin brother to late Super TV CEO, Michael Usifo Ataga, has made statements indicating there is more to the true killer or killers of the media chief executive officer. Barrister Franklin Usu, while speaking in a television program with Crime Fighters reporter, said his cousin brother's hands were tied badly that the rope enters his skin. Barrister Franklin Usu said the suspect, Chidimma Ojukwu, currently helping police in the investigation, could not have been the only one that tied Michael Usifo Ataga and stabbed him to death. Barrister Franklin said Michael Usifo Ataga is the third son out of the 4 children the parents had, adding Usifo Ataga is someone who always liked to do business. He said Michael Usifo Ataga was stabbed at the stomach and the cut was so deep and wide that the mortuary attendant in his presence stuck 2 of his fingers through the hole into the dead body. Franklin said when he looked at the way and manner his cousin brother was stabbed deliberately and repeatedly at the jugular and other parts of the body, he looked at the dead body again 5 times and looked at Chidimma Ojukwu. He concluded it's not possible the 21-year-old lady, as at 2021, was merely the one that carried out the killing. Franklin Usu's statement is considered more important at the moment when many Nigerians and the world were shocked yesterday, 2021, to the media statement credited to the suspected killer, Chidimma Ojukwu, that she knows nothing about the killing of Michael Usifo Ataga. Chidimma Ojukwu, in the most recent interview with Crime Fighters reporter, said she went out to buy some food items and returning to the hotel room, she met Michael Usifo Ataga lifeless on the ground with bloodstains on the bed and other places in the room. She said she could not scream to avoid being arrested. She again admitted that she withdrew money from Ataga bank account via the deceased ATM card after the death has occurred. Chidimma Ojukwu said she changed her clothes before leaving the hotel room on that fateful day because there was blood stain on the former clothes she wore. Chidimma Ojukwu could not give further clarification on how her clothes got stained with blood. It could not also be ascertained if the Crime Fighters reporter was aware of the earlier confessional statements made by Chidimma Ojukwu to other media houses, as there were no questions cross-examining the suspect's former statements and the current U-turn. Osezwe Akondo reports that the suspect Chidimma Ojukwu have submitted 3 versions or accounts over Michael Usifo Ataga death. When Chidimma Ojukwu was paraded before a group of journalists, she admitted killing Michael Usifo Ataga but during a fight. She added that the deceased was even pushing her. Unfortunately, the deceased friend issued a statement dismissing the look at like right to self-defense story of Chidimma Ojukwu, adding that Ataga was tied, forced to provide his company account details and millions of naira was on the process being moved to unknown account until the customer bank blocked the account and terminated the transaction process, and Ataga was subsequently stabbed repeatedly to death. Thereafter, Chidimma Ojukwu, in an interview with NTA reporter, admitted that she tied Michael Usifo Ataga's hands while he was asleep and stabbed him repeatedly to death when argument occurred. The third version, which is the latest of Chidimma Ojukwu accounts, is that she knew nothing about Michael Usifo Ataga's death. She came back to the hotel room and met him lifeless. She secretly left the hotel to avoid arrest.
is Ojukwu Chidimma Adora. Ojukwu Chidimma Adora.
Your name is what?
Ojukwu Chidimma Adora.
Ojukwu Chidimma
Adora.
Adora.
Yeah.
Okay, you're from where?
Abia State.
Abia, which part of Abia?
Arochukwu.
Arochukwu, which part of Arochukwu? Wait. Which part of Arochukwu?
Agbagu. Agbagu.
Abagu. Okay. So just tell us what happened so that we don't have to ask you too many questions. We said just roll. Tell us what happened that day. The day you guys checked in, how you met him. Just tell us everything.
And so he asked me to get a shortlet where we can stay. So I got it, and then.
Babe, let her finish. Then what did she know? You ask. That's the only way we can make.
So I checked for it online, and then I sent to him. He said I should go check it out. Then I went to check it out, and then he paid for it. That was how it is that day.
Which day was that?
On Sunday.
Okay, from Sunday, what happened while you were together? Just tell us.
On Monday, we were together, drinking, smoking. We had fun. So I went to get food for all of us, both of us, I mean. And then that was what happened. Then on Tuesday, he was trying to make advances on me, which I was tired, but he became violent on it. So he got his way, which I let him. And then in the afternoon, towards afternoon, we ordered for smoke. And also roofies together. So that was what we took. And then we ate the food that we had on Monday. So we became high, and I wasn't happy for the first one he did, so I was still on my own, just smoking and drinking with my food that I've eaten. So he too was on his own couch. Then he came on to me while I was watching a movie. We were both watching a movie. So he came on to me and was like, I was like, no, that I'm not happy with what you did in the first one. And then I was like, you don't help me, you don't assist me in anything, but yet you just playing with me around. And then he was like, oh, okay, take my ATM now, I can go and withdraw what you want. And then he said the pin. I was like, that's not what I mean. That's not what I meant. So he became violent or trying to get to me, and I was resisting and defending myself. And at some point, he hit my head on the wall, and I also retaliated. And also, at some point, it was choking me, which I was on the kitchen cabinet. I lay on the kitchen cabinet while he was choking me, and then I stretched out the knife, and then I stabbed his neck.
And what else?
Sorry, please hold on.
Usifo is the third son in a family of 4. He has 2 elder brothers and a younger sister, and his siblings, they all live abroad. And Usifo grew up as a child who was raised by very good parents in a Christianly manner, and he's a guy who's always had business in his DNA. He's always liked to do business. But what I'll tell you about Usifo is that Usifo is very respectable. Usifo will never hurt a fly. Usifo loves people. Usifo goes beyond the immediate family to know his cousins, to know his uncles. I've had the very regrettable privilege of seeing that dead body 5 times. My cousin's hands were tied so badly that the rope entered his skin. The rope is right there as an exhibit with the police. That binding could not have been done by that lady alone. Not possible. Even if he was drugged, it is not possible, because I saw the lady and I saw my cousin. I said, this is not possible. Apart from the fact that he was tied, There were multiple stabs on his body. That is correct. Multiple. So that story of 2 stabs and neck is not true. He was stabbed in other places. His leg. In fact, in Yaba mortuary, the attendants were so dramatic that they told us clearly, the stabbing here was so bad that it's a hole. The guy stuck his 2 fingers into my cousin's body in my presence. I am serious. The Doppler vein, he was stabbed here deliberately. So whether he was just stabbed on the neck, no, he was stabbed on the Doppler vein twice. He was stabbed on his body multiply.
He doesn't talk much about himself. He's quite busy, like a busy person. I would say that at some point in time, he got to know that he likes to carry girls, and he smokes, he drinks, and takes drugs also. So I don't know deep about him. His character, he gets angry easily. He has issue with his wife. So, but his children is what is targeted as family man. He wasn't into happy married life or something. He was just more of catering for his kids. I can't remember some of his friends that I've met, but remember their faces kind of really, or their names, but I've met 2 people that I said friends something. I don't have 10 million in my bank account, so I have 400 or 500 accounts. Michael gave me his laptop. He had 2 laptops, so I told him that I wanted laptops, so he gave me one, and that was what I sold to get the money. It was a Mac Pro. I wasn't doing ushering when I was with him anymore. I was getting more from him than doing the ushering, so there was no need on ushering. Ushering can be 15k, 20k. It gives me more than the ushering.
What did you plan to do with the money?
The apartment where it was said it was leaking, so then they said I should go. They said it was free and I too was free, so let's fancy. It was Sunday on the 13th June. I decided to check online about the shortlets because it said that I didn't want hotel. There will not be Netflix, or it will not be fun, being in the house or something. So that was when I decided to check for a shortlet. So I sent it to him and he said it was okay. Then he said I should go check the place out. So I checked it and it was okay. Then he made payments. He sent 105. That was for 4 days. After I paid the money, so after 1 hour, he came. When he came, then we went to get food. We went out to eat and also get drinks. And we're just indoor, watching movie, drinking, smoking. He woke up before me, but I was still feeling sleepy and dizzy because of the smoke, drink, and the drug. So he asked what I need, what we need. So I was we need to buy food and drug because the drug that we brought already finished. He sends the money to their account. Why the other one? He gave me the card because I was trying to make payments and it didn't go through. So he gave me the card. I didn't have access to his card, but I know the PIN code. Before I was leaving, he stood up to lock the door. But when I got in, I was knocking. As there was no answer, I opened the door. Was already open, it wasn't locked, and the duvet was on the floor, plus pillows. The bed, the couch was facing the door, and the bed was stained with blood already, and the floor where it was blood, and then music was on, the TV was on. The room was already disarranged, someone broke in. Then I saw him on the floor. I didn't know what to do. I took my things with his thing and left. I was afraid. I didn't know if I have raised alarm, they would have arrested me for doing it because I and him were just the only people in the room. I just left. I was packing my things to leave. Then I noticed that my clothes was stained, so I changed it to another. I took the bag that contained his ID and documents, bank statements. My bag was already on the floor. I met my bag on the floor, and then the stuff it was with was on the TV set. That's where the stuff I took was on the TV set. So I just packed them and just put them into the nylon and left. I took his phone the following week. I was home, then I went out to withdraw some money from the ATM that I was with. I withdrew 200. Before that day, on Tuesday, he already told me that he's going to give me the money that I requested for. And when I came out, when I was arrested, and they were saying I made away with 5 million naira, there was no 5 million naira in the account. I just did it. It's not like I had something to do with his death. I never had anything to do with his death. The lady that I rented the apartment from, I had to message her that she should please probably send the security guy to check on him. That I haven't heard from him. That's what I said to her. And they came to my house and they arrested me, took me to station. I didn't involve anybody. I don't know who must have come into the apartment. Definitely somebody did that, but I don't know who that person is. I don't know what happened when I left to buy the food. I don't know. Because of the thing I did after not alerting police and then also withdrawing money, I feel guilty for what happened. I did not kill him. Not sure whether I did not kill him, but my doing, taking his money and not reporting the police, I believe that somebody knew where we were and then waited till I left before they could enter. The pressure and people, when I was confronting security guy, and it was like, no, nobody entered into the apartment, that it was just me that entered into the apartment. And knowing full well of what I did, withdrawing his money, I just took the blame on myself that since no one believes, let me just take it. No one is influencing my statements. I've not spoken to anybody, my relation or anybody. I've just been in the self since.
Osazuwa Connected, bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Founder of Sahara Reporters News Network, Omoyele Sowore and Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC on Tuesday took to social media to throw jabs or insults, criticisms at each other after EFCC refused to mention the names of the ex-top government official who was allegedly linked with the 753 Houses Federal High Court in Abuja ordered the property's final forfeiture to federal government, and the exchange of words forced Sowore to make public court affidavit which EFCC investigative officers sworn before the court on November 21, 2024 and alleged that the 753 houses were probably acquired by the former Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele apparently from the kickbacks he was fraudulently collecting from the Apex Bank contractors with close working with Zenith Bank Deputy General Manager Ifeanyi Collins Obeke to acquire the properties. EFCC investigative officers said that the commission became aware of the properties when they searched the office of the Zenith Bank Deputy General Manager Ifeanyi Collins Omeke, and found title documents of the properties in his office. Verbatim, the EFCC investigative officer said, I, Idi Musa, Mel, Nigerian and investigating officer of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, 301 300 Seconds Institution and Research District, Jabi, Abuja, do solemnly and sincerely make oath and state as follows. That I am one of the operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission assigned to investigate the damning intelligence report received by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in respect of monumental fraudulent activities perpetrated by some senior officers of the Central Bank of Nigeria, through which huge sums of money were fraudulently converted and transferred for personal use. That I have the consent and authority of the Executive Chairman, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, to depose to the affidavit in support of this application. That by virtue of my position as one of the investigating officers assigned to investigate the said intelligence report, I am well conversant with the fact of this case, having derived my knowledge of the same in the course of my investigations. That I know as a fact, and I verily believe as follows. A. That the Commission, whilst investigating the alleged monumental fraud carried out by the immediate past Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and his cronies, traced and discovered several properties reasonably suspected to have been acquired and or developed with proceeds of unlawful activities. B. That the property highlighted in Schedule A to this application is one of the said properties recovered, having been reasonably suspected to have been acquired, developed with proceeds of unlawful activities. That in the course of this investigation, it was revealed that the erstwhile CBN governor negotiates kickbacks in return for allocation of foreign exchange to some companies who were in desperate need of foreign exchange for their lawful and legitimate businesses. D. That our investigation equally revealed that erstwhile CBN governor received kickbacks from some contractors who were awarded contracts by the Central Bank of Nigeria. E. That upon investigation, it was revealed that one Ifeanyi Omeke, a deputy general manager and head, litigation of Zenith Bank, PLC, worked closely with Godwin Emefiele and ran several errands for him, which included purchase and perfection of title documents for several properties located in highbrow areas of Lagos and Abuja. F. That upon a search conducted in the office premises of Mr. Ifeanyi Collins Omeke by the operatives of the Commission, several property title documents were recovered which investigation revealed were purchased with sums traced and reasonably believed to be proceeds of unlawful activities, to wit, kickback from allocation of foreign exchange and award of contract. G. That upon conclusion of investigation, the Commission applied to the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos to forfeit the properties located and situate in Lagos recovered from Mr. Ifeanyi Collins Omeke. Properties investigation revealed were purchased with sums traced and reasonably believed to be proceeds of unlawful activities. That during the course of the search at the office premises of Mr. Ifeanyi Collins Omeke by the operatives of the Commission highlighted in paragraph 4(e) above, the Commission also recovered title documents of a landed property measuring 150,462.86 meters square line and situate in Abuja as highlighted in Schedule A to this application. The title and other relevant documents in relation to this property recovered from Ifeanyi Omeke are attached and marked Exhibit EFCC 01. That sequel to the facts in paragraph 5 above, the Commission wrote a letter of investigation activity to the Abuja Geographical Information Systems (AGIS) requesting for a search on the said property. That on the 17th day of September 2024, the said property was located with the assistance of a surveyor from AGIS using search results and coordinates. That upon locating the said property and names of persons to have ever associated with the property, letters of investigation were sent to relevant banks requesting for the opening packages of the said companies used in funding and developing the said property. That investigation further revealed that the said property has been abandoned and deserted with only a guard manning the said property since June 2023 upon the arrest of the erstwhile CBN governor. That I know as a fact and verily believed that further investigations revealed the following: that the said land known as Plot 109, lying and situate at Cadastral Zone C09 was initially allocated to Windermere Nigeria Limited on the 15th day of September 2010 for mass housing development. That the title of the said property was later transferred to MG Property Limited via an executed deed of assignment. That sometime in August 2021, the said MG Properties transferred its title to H&Y Business Global Limited. That the said H&Y Business Global Limited is also being investigated for acquiring one of the properties forfeited in the interim by the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos, for the sum of 2,200,000 nairas, 00000 from Nigeria Linting and Printing Limited for and on behalf of the then Central Bank of Nigeria Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. That monies H&Y Business Global Limited used for the acquisition of the property were not from their legitimate income but rather were fraudulently procured by Godwin Emefiele and his cronies to disguise and conceal the unlawful origin of the funds used in the acquisition of the properties. That further investigations revealed that 3 different companies were used in paying and acquiring the property, now sought to be finally forfeited to the federal government of Nigeria. That Ifedigo Integrated Services is one of the 3 companies used in the acquisition of the property sought to be forfeited. That in the course of the fraudulent acquisition of the property sought to be forfeited, Ifedigo Integrated Services was procured to transfer the sum of 900 million nairas reasonably suspected to be proceeds of unlawful activities to the account of MG Properties Limited. The account statement evidencing the said payment is hereby attached and marked Exhibit EFCCO2. That the second company that was procured and used in the acquisition of the property sought to be forfeited is Kelvito Integrated Service. That the said Kelvito Integrated Service transferred the sum of 700 million nairas reasonably suspected to be proceeds of unlawful activities to MG Properties Limited. The account statement evidencing the said payment is hereby attached and marked Exhibit EFCCO3. That the third company used in the fraudulent acquisition of the property sought to be forfeited is One Ice Frozen Food and Ventures. That the said Ice Frozen Food and Ventures was procured to retain and transfer the sum of 600 million nairas reasonably suspected to be proceed of unlawful activities to MG Properties Limited for the acquisition of the said property, now sought to be forfeited in the interim to the federal government of Nigeria. That MG Properties received the aggregate sum of 2,200,000,000 nairas from Ifedigo Integrated Services, Kelvito Integrated Service and Ice Frozen Food and Ventures via its account. The account statement of MG Properties evidencing the said payment is hereby attached and marked Exhibit EFCCO4. That the said 3 companies used for the payment the property are enmeshed in criminal maneuvering of layering proceeds of illegal activities of Mr. Godwin Emefiele. That the directors of Ifedigo Integrated Services and Kelvito Integrated Service were arrested and their statement voluntarily obtained in the course of investigation. The said extrajudicial statements are hereby attached and marked Exhibit EFCCO5 and B respectively. That further investigations regarding the alleged fraudulent acquisition of the property sought to be forfeited revealed as follows: that one Mr. Eric Ocheme, the personal assistant to Mr. Emefiele, procured Richard Akulu, a vault administrator and cash officer of Zenith Bank PLC, Maitamamen branch, Abuja to London millions of naira for Mr. Godwin Emefiele monies suspected to be illegal kickbacks from allocation of foreign exchange deals and award of contract by the CBN. That said, Mr. Agulu also procured his friends to open a bank account which could be used to receive proceeds of unlawful activities of Mr. Godwin Emefiele. That to achieve this sinister aim, Mr. Agulu hoodwinks old friends such as one Mr. Peter Adeyemi to open bank accounts to receive proceeds of unlawful activities. That one Mr. Christopher Emefiele, the promoter of the Emis Properties Nigeria Limited and close ally of Mr. Godwin Emefiele, was invited by the commission. He volunteered his statement and confirmed that the said Mr. Eric Ocheme, the personal assistant to Mr. Godwin Ifeanyi Emefiele, contacted him to act as consultant for the development of the property highlighted in Schedule A2. This application now sought to be finally forfeited. Attached and marked Exhibit EFCC 06 is the extrajudicial statement of the said Mr. Christopher Emefiele. That the development of the property was directly handled by Eric Ocheme for his principal Mr. Godwin Emefiele. That payment and purchase, miscellaneous and development of the property sought to be forfeited was conducted through bank transfers and cash via proxy accounts with proceeds of illegal activities. That part of the proceeds received by the accounts fraudulently opened to facilitate unlawful activities are illegal funds that were used to acquire the property sought to be forfeited. That the title documents of the property highlighted in Schedule A to this application was handed over to Ifeanyi Omeke by Godwin Emefiele. That the funds used in the acquisition of the property highlighted in Schedule A to this application are not legitimate earnings of Godwin Emefiele but monies acquired through illegal and unlawful activities. That I know as a fact and verily believe that the source, origin of the funds used in the acquisition and or development of the properties sought to be forfeited are proceeds of unlawful activities, to wit, corrupt enrichment, receiving of gratification or kickbacks and abuse of office, EFCC stated. Apparently angered by Showere's statement of campaign against EFCC for not disclosing the names of the suspected former top government official, EFCC in a press release said, "The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is following with keen interest the flurry of reactions to its record-breaking recovery of 753 duplexes and other apartments on Plot 109 Cadastral Zone CO9, Lokogoma District, Abuja." The commentaries of reform-minded Nigerians to the Commission's painstaking efforts in securing the final forfeiture of the estate to the federal government of Nigeria are appreciated. However, the denigration of such efforts by Omoyele Sowore and his think same and act same is unacceptable and grossly uncharitable. The allegation of a cover-up of the identity of the promoters of the estate stands logic on the held in the sense that the proceedings for the forfeiture of the estate were in line with Section 17 of the Advance Fee Fraud Act, which is a civil proceeding that allows for action in rem rather than action in personam. The latter allows legal actions against a property and not an individual, especially in a situation of an unclaimed property. This act allows you to take up a forfeiture proceeding against a chattel that is not a juristic person. This is exactly what the Commission did in respect of the estate. The proceedings that yielded the final forfeiture of the estate were products of actionable intelligence available to the Commission. The company flagged by our investigations denied ownership of the estate following publications made in leading national newspapers. On the basis of this, the Commission approached the court for an order of final forfeiture, which Justice Jude Onwuebuzi of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, High Court granted on Monday, December 2, 2024. The expectation of the EFCC from citizen Sowore is a patriotic appreciation of its efforts in securing such a landmark forfeiture. It is shocking that the activist is not concerned about the systemic lassitude and unhelpful permissiveness that allowed such a monstrous corrupt act in the first instance. Nigerians should gear up more against lapses and loopholes in our system that continue to make the nation vulnerable to corrupt tendencies. The EFCC will continue to safeguard the financial space of the nation against manipulators and organized brigandage. It is important to note that the substantive criminal investigation on the matter still continues. It will be unprofessional of the EFCC to go to town by mentioning names of individuals whose identities were not directly linked to any title document of the properties. The EFCC is unwavering in its no sacred cow approach to every matter, and together we will make Nigeria greater. Dele Oyewale, Heard, Media and Publicity, EFCC stated on December 3, 2024 as published on the EFCC social media handles. Sowore Omoyele took to the comments section of the EFCC X social media handle, stated below and attached court affidavit sworn and used by EFCC to apply before Federal High Court in Abuja for the final forfeiture of the 753 houses. This is the most reckless and irresponsible statement I've read from a government agency in a long while. The assertions here are also patently irresponsible. I have obtained court proceedings and an affidavit sworn to by EFCC investigator who named the names of those behind this real estate fraud. I maintain that referring to the person, Godwin Emefiele, smacks of an attempt to cover up his misdeeds and those of his collaborators. The truth is that the court proceedings tell otherwise. I will attach some court documents here so the public can see the EFCC as the service in this matter, Sowore words end. In quote, we had reported that a federal high court in Abuja has ruled and ordered a final forfeiture of 753 houses allegedly built with proceeds of fraud or fraudulent practices by a top ex-government official or named by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, while the suspect whose names were not disclosed in public domain remained under investigation. The court ruled that the suspect could not give convincing reasons why the properties should not be forfeited to federal government as requested by EFCC. EFCC in a news release on Monday said, the assets is the single largest asset recovery ever made by the commission since its creation in 2003. Details of the news release as made available by EFCC Media Unit, where EFCC said its chairman, Ola Olukoyede, has ordered the commission operatives to commence recovery of properties suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of fraud once a suspect is under investigation, reads verbatim below. Justice Jude Onwuebuzi, on Monday, December 2, 2024 gave a ruling on a final forfeiture of an estate in Abuja measuring 150,500 square meters and containing 753 units of duplexes and other apartments. This is the single largest asset recovery by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, since its inception in 2003. The estate rests on plot 109 Cadastral Zone CO9, Lokogoma District, Abuja. The forfeiture of the property to the federal government by a former top brass of the government was pursuant to EFCC's mandate and policy directive of ensuring that the corrupt and fraudulent do not enjoy the proceeds of their unlawful activities. In this instance, the Commission relied on Section 17 of the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act No. 14, 2006 and Section 44, 2b of the Constitution of the 199 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to push its case. Ruling on the Commission's application for the final forfeiture of the property, Justice Onwuebuzi held that the respondent have not shown cause as to why he should not lose the property, which has been reasonably suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of unlawful activities. The property is hereby finally forfeited to the federal government. The road to the final forfeiture of the property was paved by an interim forfeiture order, secured before the same judge on November 1, 2024. The government official which fraudulently built the estate is being investigated by the EFCC. The forfeiture of the asset is an important modality of depriving the suspect of the proceeds of the crime. The justification for the forfeiture is derived from Part 2, Section 7 of the EFCC Establishment Act, which stipulates that the EFCC has power to cause investigations to be conducted as to whether any person, corporate body or organization has committed any offense under this act or other law relating to economic and financial crimes and cause investigations to be conducted into the properties of any person if it appears to the commission that the person's lifestyle and extent of the properties are not justified by his source of income.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Lawmakers in South Korea on Wednesday submitted a bill for the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol for declaring martial law on Tuesday night, invading National Assembly complex with masked martial law military troops to stop rapes from overturning or overruling the declaration. But the ruling People Power Party (PPP) held an emergency meeting later on Wednesday and resolved to unite and stand as hurdle against the call for Yoon's impeachment. Local media reported that the decision to stand as hurdle to the opposition party's lawmakers' impeachment notice against Yoon was made at a meeting of the ruling PPP lawmakers, who endorsed the party's position of opposing President Yoon's impeachment, according to Seoul-based Yonhap news media. According to local media, Yoon had earlier met with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo and other PPP leaders on Wednesday to discuss future strategy after opposition parties filed an impeachment motion in response to the brief martial law declaration late Tuesday evening and Wednesday early morning night. Political observers in South Korea said that the impeachment motion must receive a two-thirds majority in parliament to be approved. The opposition will need 8 votes from ruling party lawmakers out of the 300 lawmakers in the National Assembly to pass the bill. Yoon's declaration of martial law is a clear violation of the Constitution, the Democrats' party wrote in a resolution seeking Yoon's impeachment, according to the South Korean news agency, Yonhap. This is a serious act of rebellion and a perfect reason for impeachment, the Democrats stated. For the impeachment to take effect, lawmakers now have 24 to 72 hours to vote on whether to oust the president. Notably, no PPP lawmakers supported the impeachment motion, though the head of the party expressed exasperation with the martial law decree on Tuesday. According to Yonhap, given the current makeup of the assembly, 8 PPP lawmakers would have to defect to give the motion the two-thirds majority it requires to remove Yoon. Reuters through its Facebook page showed a live broadcast view of South Korea's parliament after South Korean lawmakers submitted the bill to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol. CNN also identified a woman in a video that has gone viral as Ngwi Ryung, a journalist turned lawmaker scuffling with an armed soldier outside South Korea's parliament building during the political turmoil on Wednesday early morning night, and is the spokesperson for the main opposition Democratic Party and former anchor on broadcaster YTN. It would be recalled that parliament members in South Korea battled soldiers to get inside their building at 1 a.m. after the country's president declared emergency martial law, blaming Democratic opponents for bringing his conservative government to a standstill and, without proof, colluding with North Korea. Lawmakers blocked the president's declaration unanimously with 190 votes to 0, for the parliament members who were able to force their way into the National Assembly hall midnight. President Yoon, elected in a bitterly fought election in 2022, declared martial law on television on Tuesday night, a widely unexpected move that shocked the nation and international observers. Yoon argued that legislative obstruction by the opposition Democratic Party had turned the National Assembly into a den of criminals and necessitated military action. I declare martial law to protect the Republic of Korea from the threats of North Korean Communist forces. To immediately eradicate the unscrupulous pro-Pyongyang anti-state forces that pillage the freedom and happiness of our people and to protect free constitutional order, Yoon stated during the declaration on Tuesday night on national television. The Democratic Party-controlled National Assembly rapidly sprung into action, flooding into legislative chambers while blocking heavily armed soldiers who have stated that, under martial law, political assemblies were illegal. The Democrats have controlled the assembly since April, when they won regional elections against the Conservatives in a landslide. We had earlier reported that protesters flooded streets, demanding President Yoon Suk-yeol's resignation after a long night of military and civilian show of force in South Korea from 11 p.m. on Tuesday night and almost throughout entire early morning night of Wednesday, when 190 lawmakers from opposition political party, including 18 from the president political party, jumped fences to convey important and urgent parliamentary meeting after President Yoon Suk-yeol declared martial law in the country and ordered masked martial law troops with rifles to invade the National Assembly of the fourth Asian largest economy country to stop the lawmakers. But the soldiers met a stiffer civilian barricades who engaged the soldiers with fire extinguishers at the National Assembly complex and held them back until the lawmakers successfully held the plenary session and voted to outlaw the president's martial law declaration. Videos posted online showed thousands of South Korean protesters held a candlelight vigil and rally in downtown Seoul streets against President Yoon Suk-yeol, who has been in office since 2022, to resign. Protesters held up signs that read, "Step down President Yoon Suk-yeol," as people and lawmakers attend a rally in Seoul, the South Korea capital, according to Reuters international news agency. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol had on Tuesday declared martial law, vowing to eradicate shameless pro-North Korean anti-state forces and restore order. Martial law was last declared in the country in 1979. Soon after the declaration, protests broke out in Seoul and thousands gathered at the National Assembly, with South Korea's main opposition party lawmakers and some ruling party lawmakers jumped fences and tussled with security forces so they could vote to overturn the law. According to Reuters, thousands of demonstrators gathered outside the parliament where there were minor clashes with police and military. Lawmakers gathered to vote against martial law, as both opposition lawmakers and leaders of Yoon's own party decried it as unconstitutional. All 190 of the lawmakers present voted to lift martial law, including 18 from Yoon's own party. Yoon ordered troops to pull back and later lifted the decree after convening a cabinet meeting. 190 of the National Assembly's 300 members defied police and military cordons to vote against the declaration, forcing Yoon to lift the martial law order. The move late on Tuesday shocked South Koreans, with Yoon calling in the military, which released a decree banning protests and activity by parliament and political parties, and placing media under government control, according to Reuters. The international news agency added that the military named Army Chief of Staff, General Park An-soo, a 4-star general, to head a martial law command and released the decree effective at 11 p.m. on Tuesday. Besides banning political activity and restricting the media, the decree also ordered striking doctors back to work. Those who violate martial law could be arrested without a warrant, it said. Masked martial law troops equipped with rifles, body armor and night vision equipment entered the National Assembly, where the first of with staffers who opposed them with fire extinguishers. Secretary General of South Korea's National Assembly, Kim Min-ki, condemned the military on Wednesday morning for breaking into the legislature during President Yoon Suk-yeol's brief imposition of martial law, saying that nearly 300 troops had stormed the compound. Kim Min-ki said at a news briefing that, "I strongly condemn the illegal, unconstitutional actions of the military and the destruction it caused at the National Assembly premises due to President Yoon's decree of martial law." He vowed to seek legal remedies for the damage caused, and he said the police, who prevented some lawmakers from entering the building overnight, would be barred from the premises. Kim offered the most detailed official account yet of the military's incursion, saying, "About 230 troops were flown by helicopter onto the assembly grounds, and roughly 50 others jumped fences to gain entry," he said. Kim played closed-circuit footage of soldiers entering the compound at the news briefing, saying that all such video would soon be made public.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Protesters flooded streets. demanding President Yoon Suk Yeol's resignation after a long night of military and civilian show of force in South Korea from 11 p.m. on Tuesday night and almost throughout entire early morning night of Wednesday, when 190 lawmakers from opposition political party, including 18 from the president political party, jumped fences to convey important and urgent parliamentary meeting after President Yoon Suk Yeol declared martial law in the country and ordered massed martial law troops with rifles to invade the National Assembly of the fourth Asia's largest economic country to stop the lawmakers. But the soldiers met a stiffer civilian barricades who engaged the soldiers with fire extinguishers at the National Assembly complex and held them back until the lawmakers successfully held the plenary session and voted to outlaw the president's martial law declaration. Videos posted online showed thousands of South Korean protesters held a candlelight vigil and rally in downtown Seoul streets against President Yoon Suk Yeol, who has been in office since 2022, to resign. Protesters held up signs that read, "Step down President Yoon Suk Yeol," as people and lawmakers attend a rally in Seoul, the South Korea capital, according to Reuters international news agency. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol had on Tuesday declared martial law, vowing to eradicate shameless pro-North Korean anti-state forces and restore order. Martial law was last declared in the country in 1979. Soon after the declaration, protests broke out in Seoul and thousands gathered at the National Assembly with South Korea's main opposition party lawmakers, and some ruling party lawmakers jumped fences and tussled with security forces so they could vote to overturn the law. According to Reuters, thousands of demonstrators gathered outside the parliament where there were minor clashes with police and military. Lawmakers gathered to vote against martial law, as both opposition lawmakers and leaders of Yoon's own party decried it as unconstitutional. All 190 of the lawmakers present voted to lift martial law, including 18 from Yoon's own party. Yoon ordered troops to pull back and later lifted the decree after convening a cabinet meeting. 190 of the National Assembly's 300 members defied police and military cordons to vote against the declaration, forcing Yoon to lift the martial law order. The move late on Tuesday shocked South Koreans, with Yoon calling in the military, which released a decree banning protests and activity by parliament and political parties, and placing media under government control, according to Reuters. The international news agency added that the military named Army Chief of Staff, General Park An-soo, a four-star general, to head a martial law command and released the decree effective at 11 p.m. on Tuesday. Besides banning political activity and restricting the media, the decree also ordered striking doctors back to work. Those who violate martial law could be arrested without a warrant, it said. Masked martial law troops equipped with rifles, body armor and night vision equipment entered the National Assembly, where the first of with staffers who opposed them with fire extinguishers. Secretary General of South Korea's National Assembly, Kim Min-ki, condemned the military on Wednesday morning for breaking into the legislature during President Yoon Suk Yeol's brief imposition of martial law, saying that nearly 300 troops had stormed the compound. Kim Min-ki said at a news briefing that, "I strongly condemn the illegal, unconstitutional actions of the military and the destruction it caused at the National Assembly premises due to President Yoon's decree of martial law." He vowed to seek legal remedies for the damage caused, and he said the police, who prevented some lawmakers from entering the building overnight, would be barred from the premises. Kim offered the most detailed official account yet of the military's incursion, saying, "About 230 troops were flown by helicopter onto the assembly grounds, and roughly 50 others jumped fences to gain entry," he said. Kim played closed-circuit footage of soldiers entering the compound at the news briefing, saying that all such video would soon be made public.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Nigeria Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Egbetokun has said that there is no plan to cover up a crime of some police officers, including a lawyer policeman in charge of legal department, when in 2023, the police officers allegedly conspired together and stole 43.1 million naira out of the recovered monies from a Fatford cargo worker at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. IGP, in a statement issued on Wednesday through the Force Public Relations Officer, Oluwiwa Adejobi, said the hearing officers' first possible dismissal and criminal prosecution for theft and conspiracy. According to the press release, the Nigeria Police Force has noted with concern the recent allegations circulating in the media, suggesting that the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adeolu Egbetokun, is shielding a cartel accused of smuggling suspicious new banknotes from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The NPF categorically refutes these claims, condemning them as baseless and orchestrated attempts to tarnish the IGP's reputation and the integrity of the force. The incident in question, which occurred at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport on August 26, 2023, has been thoroughly investigated. The officers involved, DSP Peter Ejike, a lawyer in charge of Zone 7 Legal Section, Inspector Eken Edwin, Inspector Esther Okafor, and Sergeant Salabi Kayode, all attached to the Zone 7 headquarters, were found culpable and sanctioned appropriately. These officers, led by Inspector Esther Okafor on the instruction of DSP Peter Ejike, unlawfully arrested Andrew Eja, an employee of FAD Cargo Nigeria Limited, who was conveying the cash sum of 74,950,000 naira on behalf of clients. Acting without authorization, the detained Mr. Eja at the Zone 7 headquarters, Abuja, and deliberately misrepresented the recovered amount as 31,790,000 naira. The officers further demanded a percentage of the funds to suppress the case. Upon being contacted by the alleged owners of the money, the officers claimed that the sum they had recovered from the arrested suspect was 31,790,000 naira, and requested a percentage of the money to jeopardize investigation and suppress the case. Outraged by their actions, the money owners petitioned the force headquarters, Abuja, and the matter was directed to the IGP Monitoring Unit for investigation. During the process, the cash sum of 31,790,000 naira was recovered from the officers, who claimed that it was the total money recovered from Andrew Eja during his arrest. After intense investigations and a series of trials before duly constituted disciplinary panels, it was discovered that the officers took photographs of the suspect and the sacks of monies at the point of arrest, but claimed the phone they used was damaged and subsequently lost, in an attempt to conceal their misconduct. However, forensic intelligence showed that this group of officers conspired and stole part of the money, amounting to 43,160,000 naira, and tasked one of them to move the cash out of the FCT for hiding pending when the heat blows over. They thereafter resorted to several tricks and gimmicks in order to cover their tracks, one of which is the spread of this false narrative and misinformation to several online blogs and newspaper platforms. These officers have been suspended, being found culpable of serious misconduct, tampering with exhibits, abuse of office, corrupt practice, illegal duty, and acts unbecoming of a police officer. The movement of such an amount of money by the alleged cargo company could have been investigated and handled professionally by the police, but the officers were carried away by greed and therefore acted criminally and unprofessionally. It is pertinent to note that the circulating false narrative is a sponsored misinformation cultivated by mischief makers who seek to divert attention from the criminal acts of the police officers by attempting to join issues with the Inspector General of Police. The affected officers will be prosecuted upon conclusion of due legal and administrative procedures. We urge the public and the media to refrain from spreading this false narrative aimed at tainting the reputation of the Inspector General of Police. Such misinformation undermines public trust and detracts from the ongoing efforts of the current administration to reform the police force by eradicating unprofessional elements.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
It is no longer news that President Joe Biden of the United States of America, USA, on Sunday granted his son, Hunter Biden, full and unconditional state pardon just the next day after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump picked Kash Patel as next Director of Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, with President Biden accusing the judiciary of playing to the gallery of his political opponents to have selectively and unfairly prosecuted his son, Hunter, with a view to break him and his family. President Joe Biden, who had lost 2 sons to death, said the judiciary was biased not to allow the negotiated plea bargain in the case of Hunter, same way the judiciary had permitted plea bargain in other cases of tax evasions, gun charges similar to that of Hunter Biden. President Joe Biden, who had in several occasions said he will not grant presidential pardon to his son, Hunter, said he believes Americans would understand his Sunday decision to grant Hunter pardon he described as someone who have suffered selective and unfair prosecution, sober for over 5 years simply because he's the president's son. Adding, the judiciary could have been fair enough if the judge had permitted plea bargain. In a swift reaction, Newsweek reported that the special counsel in Hunter Biden case, David Weiss, objected to the dismissal of Hunter Biden's tax charges as he pushed back on President Joe Biden's claims that his son was politically, selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Weiss said, "Never has been any evidence of vindictive or selective prosecution in this case." Weiss objected to the dismissal of Hunter's tax case in a legal filing where he argued there was no legal precedent for dismissal of an indictment, only the punishment. A pardon does not blot out guilt or expunge a judgment of conviction, Weiss said. It also does not mean that his charges should be wiped away because the defendant falsely claimed that the charges were the result of some improper motive. Hunter had been scheduled to be sentenced later this month for gun charges and tax evasion. The pardon has been hugely divisive, with many of Biden's own party criticizing him for issuing it after pledging he would never do so. The pardon came after U.S. President-elect Donald Trump aims to make loyalist Kash Patel the next Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He made the announcement on Saturday, in a move that would mean replacing the agency's current leader. Trump announced the former advisor and Pentagon official, who has been critical of the Bureau and is known for his controversial views on a so-called government, deep state, as his choice for the post on his Truth Social network. The FBI's current director, Christopher Wray, was appointed to a 10-year term in 2017, meaning he would either need to step down or be fired. The FBI under Wray, who Trump appointed, has investigated the incoming president, sparking Trump's ire. Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator and America First fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people, Trump wrote on Truth Social. A fierce defender of the incoming president, Patel supports the Republican hardliner notion of an anti-Trump, deep state, of allegedly biased government bureaucrats working to stifle Trump from behind the scenes, even having written a book on the subject. A son of Indian immigrants, Patel served in several high-level posts during Trump's first term, including as a national security advisor and as chief of staff to the acting defense secretary. Kash did an incredible job during my first term, Trump said, adding that the nominee would work to end the growing crime epidemic in America, dismantle the migrant criminal gangs, and stop the evil scourge of human and drug trafficking across the border. Wray was staffed by Trump during his first term, replacing an acting director after Trump fired former FBI Director James Comey. Comey had angered Trump with an FBI investigation into the president's extensive ties to Russia. The FBI under Wray went on to investigate Trump himself, searching his Mar-a-Lago estate in 2022 for illegally retained top-secret documents. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's wife, Jill, says she supports the pardon of her son. She was confronted with a question if she supports her husband's pardon to her son, Hunter, while she was on the stage having handshakes with some participants at an event. She initially didn't respond to the question and moved away from the direction of the person asking the question. She continued exchanging pleasantries with guests, but the question kept echoing and repeating, forcing her to walk stylishly to the stage podium mic stand and says, "Of course, I support the pardon of my son." Political News Network reported that the Hunter Biden's pardon looks a lot like Richard Nixon's. The media went further to say that President Joe Biden's grant of clemency on Sunday night, an extraordinary political act with extraordinary legal breadth, insulates his son from ever facing federal charges over any crimes he possibly could have committed over the past decade. Experts on pardons said they could only think of one other person who has received such a sweeping presidential pardon, Nixon, who was given a blanket pardon in 1974 by Gerald Ford. Biden's full and unconditional pardon of his son is deliberately vague. Donald Trump and his allies have long fixated on the president's son, and Trump has repeatedly pledged to use his second term to investigate and prosecute members of the Biden family. Trump will not be able to undo the pardon when he takes office. The Democratic president's pardon comes as Republican President-elect Donald Trump, who has pledged to go after his political opposition, prepares to take office January 20, 2025, according to international news agencies. Responding, President-elect Donald Trump asked if President Joe Biden's pardon for his son, Hunter Biden, includes the rioters who attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2020. Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages, who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice, Trump stated on Truth Social on Sunday after President Joe Biden granted the state pardon to his son, Hunter, after Hunter was found guilty over the summer of 3 felony counts related to the purchase and possession of a firearm while addicted to drugs. In September, the younger Biden agreed and pleaded guilty to 9 tax-related charges, including 3 felonies. He would have faced up to 17 years in federal prison, according to local observers in the U.S. Megan Hayes, Democratic strategist and former senior communications aide to Biden, says, "With some of the nominations that Trump has put up, I think it probably caused a little bit of worry for him. But also I think people have to remember, the president lost 2 children already and he does not need to lose another one. The president made a decision as a father to keep his son out of jail and out of harm's way moving forward. I think that some of these nominations that Trump has been putting forward and leaving this in the hands of other folks is worrisome to the president." President-elect Trump and Kash Patel have said they are going to go after their political enemies. They are going after retribution. I think that Hunter Biden has been seen as the person they've gone after many times, and I don't think the president is going to leave that to chance when he leaves office. Chuck Grassley, Republican U.S. Senator from Iowa, on his X social media profile stated that, "I'm shocked President Biden pardoned his son Hunter because he said many times he wouldn't and I believed him. Shame on me." Jared Polis, Democratic governor of Colorado, said, "While as a father I certainly understand President Joe Biden's natural desire to help his son by pardoning him, I am disappointed that he put his family ahead of the country. This is a bad precedent that could be abused by later presidents and will sadly tarnish his reputation. When you become president, your role is better familiars of the nation." Hunter brought the legal trouble he faced on himself, and one can sympathize with his struggles while also acknowledging that no one is above the law, not a president and not a president's son. Eric Holder, former U.S. Attorney General under Democratic President Barack Obama, stated that, "Here is the reality. No U.S. attorney would have charged this case given the underlying facts. After a 5-year investigation, the facts as discovered only made that clear. Had his name been Joe Smith, the resolution would have been, fundamentally and morally, a declination. Pardon warranted. Ask yourself a vastly more important question. Do you really think Kash Patel is qualified to lead the world's preeminent law enforcement investigative organization? Obvious answer, hell no. White House press release on Sunday. President Joe Biden stated verbatim below. Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions, but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties, are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then, a carefully negotiated plea deal, agreed to by the Department of Justice, unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. Tell me fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. President Joe Biden stated in quote according to the statement issued by the White House on Sunday.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Federal High Court in Abuja has ruled and ordered a final forfeiture of 753 houses allegedly built with proceeds of fraud or fraudulent practices by a top ex-government official unnamed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, while the suspects whose names were not disclosed in public domain remained under investigation. The court ruled that the suspect could not give convincing reasons why the properties should not be forfeited to federal government as requested by EFCC. EFCC in a news release on Monday said, the assets is the single largest asset recovery ever made by the commission since its creation in 2003. Details of the news release as made available by EFCC Media Unit where EFCC said its chairman, Ola Olukoyede has ordered the Commission operatives to commence recovery of properties suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of fraud once a suspect is under investigation reads verbatim below. Justice Jude Onwuebuzi, on Monday, December 2, 2024 gave a ruling on a final forfeiture of an estate in Abuja measuring 150,500 square meters and containing 753 units of duplexes and other apartments. This is the single largest asset recovery by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, since its inception in 2003. The estate rests on Plot 109 Cadastral Zone CO9, Lokogoma District, Abuja. The forfeiture of the property to the federal government by a former top brass of the government was pursuant to EFCC's mandate and policy directive of ensuring that the corrupt and fraudulent do not enjoy the proceeds of their unlawful activities. In this instance, the Commission relied on Section 17 of the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act No. 14, 2006 and Section 44, 2b of the Constitution of the 199 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to push its case. Ruling on the Commission's application for the final forfeiture of the property, Justice Onwuemuzi held that the respondent have not shown cause as to why he should not lose the property, which has been reasonably suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of unlawful activities. The property is hereby finally forfeited to the federal government. The road to the final forfeiture of the property was paved by an interim forfeiture order, secured before the same judge on November 1, 2024. The government official which fraudulently built the estate is being investigated by the EFCC. The forfeiture of the asset is an important modality of depriving the suspect of the proceeds of the crime. The justification for the forfeiture is derived from Part 2, Section 7 of the EFCC Establishment Act, which stipulates that the EFCC has power to cause investigations to be conducted as to whether any person, corporate body or organization has committed any offense under this act or other law relating to economic and financial crimes, and cause investigations to be conducted into the properties of any person if it appears to the Commission that the person's lifestyle and extent of the properties are not justified by his source of income. The Commission's executive chairman, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, has repeatedly described asset recovery as pivotal in the fight against corruption, economic and financial crimes, and a major disincentive against the corrupt and the fraudulent. Addressing members of the House of Representatives Committee on Anti-Corruption recently, he said, "If you understand the intricacies involved in financial crimes investigation and prosecution, you will discover that to recover 1 billion naira is war." So, I told my people that the moment we start investigation, we must also start asset tracing, because asset recovery is pivotal in the anti-corruption fight, and one of the potent instruments that you can deploy as an anti-corruption agency for an effective fight is asset tracing and recovery. If you allow the corrupt or those that you are investigating to have access to the proceeds of their crime, they will fight you with it. So one of the ways to weaken them is to deprive them of the proceeds of their crime. So, our modus operandi has changed simultaneously. The moment we begin investigation, we begin asset tracing. That was what helped us to make our recoveries. The Establishment Act of the Commission places huge emphasis on asset recovery. Subject to the provisions of Section 24 of the Act, whenever the assets and properties of any person arrested under the Act are attached, the Commission shall apply to the court for an interim forfeiture, and where a person is arrested for an offense under the Act, the Commission shall immediately trace and attach all the assets and properties of the person acquired as a result of such economic and financial crime, and shall thereafter cause to be obtained an interim attachment order from the court. And where the assets or properties of any person arrested for an offense under the Act has been seized, or any assets or property has been seized by the Commission under the Act, the Commission shall cause an application to be made to the court for an interim order forfeiting the property concerned to the federal government, and the court shall, if satisfied that there is prima facie evidence that the property concerned is liable to forfeiture, make an interim order forfeiting the property to the federal government, which the Commission would usually escalate to earn a final forfeiture. This procedure was duly followed in this respect. The recovery of the asset represents a milestone in the annals of operations of the EFCC and infallible proof of the commitment of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the anti-corruption war.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Former Nigeria head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, says he sent his wife at the middle of the night with a letter to beg the then head of state, General Sani Abacha, not to kill Olusegun Obasanjo, who later became two-term civilian president after the death of Sani Abacha. General Yakubu Gowon made this known while speaking as special guest of honor at the maiden edition of the Interdenominational Unity Christmas Carol and Praise Festival organized by the Plateau State Government, according to News Agency of Nigeria, NAN. The former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, was also a guest of honor at the event, which General Yakubu Gowon thanked Plateau State Government for organizing the ceremony to bring unity in the state. The former head of state said pleaded with late General Sani Abacha not to execute former President Olusegun Obasanjo for an alleged coup plot in 1995, which Obasanjo denied any involvement. According to Gowon, I wrote a letter to Abacha. I pleaded with him that God made him a leader to do good and not evil. I sent my wife with the letter in the middle of the night to Abacha in Abuja. I pleaded with him that such a thing should not happen. I'm glad that soon after that, things changed. And not only that, Obasanjo left prison, he became our president in 1999. This is something that only prayers and sincerity can do. I am happy that today myself and Obasanjo are here to celebrate the unity of Plateau State, he said. Obasanjo was accused by the military dictator, General Sani Abacha, of being part of a planned coup to overthrow his government in 1995. Obasanjo had denied any involvement then. But despite denying any involvement and in spite of pleading innocent to the coup, Obasanjo was not spared as he was sentenced to death. He went on to spend 3 years in prison before he was released in 1998 following the death of Abacha on June 8 of same year. Obasanjo left prison to become Nigeria's first civilian president after return to democracy in 1999. He led Nigeria for 8 years, that is 2 consecutive terms of 4 years each. General Yakubu Gowon was Nigerian military head of state from 1966 to 1975. He provided leadership during Nigeria-Biafra War, which started 1967 and ended 1970, during which Olusegun Obasanjo was one of his major commanders at the battlefield against the Biafra forces. It would be recalled that in September 2023, former President Olusegun Obasanjo said that he would not want a military rule in Nigeria again because of his experience in the hands of the late military dictator, Sani Abacha. Obasanjo stated this when the Africa for Africa Youth Initiative, A4A, paid him a courtesy visit at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library, OOPL, Ogun State. People's Gazette reported that Obasanjo said, "Yes, I love democracy. Having suffered at the hands of Abacha, Nigeria's late military dictator, I will not want a military rule. But if it has to come, what can we do? I will just say okay." The former president regretted that coup d'etat would not be happening if not because we created the condition for it. The point is this: do we have conditions that encourage the type of things that are happening? If we don't have the conditions that encourage them, they may not happen. That does not mean it should be encouraged. What it means is that we should make sure that we do everything to prevent coups from happening. The former president stressed that youth are looking for liberators, and we must bear that in mind. Why do we have to allow the youth to start looking for liberators beyond the government of the day? Why, when you see things that happen in many countries, and I will not exclude Nigeria, he however pointed out, then you wonder and don't forget, particularly the youth, they support most of these coups. The one in Gabon, the coup leader, was being carried on the head by the youths, not by old wretched men and women like me.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Fisayo Shoyombo, who was arrested and released after spending days in Nigerian Army cell while conducting participatory observation into the activities of crude oil bunkers within Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, on Saturday, says Nigerians are worth fighting for, saying, public outcry of Nigerians made him to only spend 3 days in military detention. Fisayo, who took to his Facebook profile to pin down some of his observations while in military detention facility, also granted interview with Arise TV, where he narrated and stated that the Nigerian army personnel arrested him at the scene of crime, but he could not identify himself or refused to identify himself for obvious security reasons because he had been told by the illegal bunkerers that men of the Nigerian army have been bribed, hence introducing himself to the soldiers as a journalist could cost him his life. Fisayo said, "Nigerians are not worth fighting for. I hear that every now and then, and I've always disbelieved it. Yesterday, you proved me right. You all are the reason my detention by Nigerian army lasted only 3 days. I'm a free man today because of your social media engagements with Free Fisayo and the publications, broadcasts by the traditional media. And I can prove it. After my arrest at about 2 a.m. onward, I was grilled by different levels of the army until deep into the night. I didn't return to my cell until at least 11 p.m. on Wednesday. My case was then forwarded to a superior office that was to interrogate me on Thursday. Surprisingly, Thursday was uneventful. From morning until night, this office never sent for me. I soon learned the army would take as long as it wanted to conduct their investigation, just to establish that I was indeed an investigative journalist. To my utmost surprise, on Friday morning, at about 11 a.m. or thereabouts, I was retrieved from my cell for transfer to the Military Intelligence Brigade, MIB. It was during the transfer that someone who ran into me asked to know my name, after which they said, "You're the one, you're in the news. Without your pressure, I'd still be in that cell by now, away from civilization and held incommunicado." So, yes, my freedom is your freedom. This victory exists because of you, you and you. Thank you, Fisayo stated. After granting interview with the Arise TV presenters on Saturday morning, Fisayo returned to his Facebook profile to say, "Who are the saboteurs in Nigerian army and how exalted are they?" I answered questions asked by the army in detention, and by the time I regained freedom, the oil bunkerers knew almost every single thing I told my interrogators. How did oil bunkerers know so much about me before I exited 6th Division? Nigerian army in a press release had identified Fisayo as one of the illegal oil bunkerers arrested at the scene of crime. The headquarters, 6th Division, Nigerian Army, has expressed concern over allegations circulating on social media that it detained an investigative journalist in Port Harcourt. While the division does not typically engage with the purveyors of falsehoods, it is necessary to set the record straight. As part of its intensified operations against illegal oil bunkering, the 6th Division Nigerian Army has recorded significant successes. Recent intelligence uncovered the activities of a notorious gang involved in pipeline vandalism and illegal oil connections in the region. In a carefully planned operation, troops tracked the suspects to an illegal oil bunkering site. During the operation, multiple arrests were made, including that of Mr. Fisayo Shoyombo, who was found at the scene. The suspects, including Mr. Shoyombo, are currently undergoing preliminary investigations to determine their level of involvement in the illegal activities. His arrest is directly linked to the ongoing anti-oil theft operations in the region, and any claims suggesting otherwise are baseless. The division strongly urges media outlets to verify the accuracy of their reports before disseminating information to the public. The 6th Division Nigerian Army remains committed to combating criminal activities, particularly oil theft, to ensure the protection of national resources and increased oil and gas production in the region. The Nigerian Army assures the public of its dedication to upholding security and welcomes constructive engagement to foster understanding and transparency. Danjuma Jonah Danjuma, Lieutenant Colonel, Acting Deputy Director, 6th Division, Army Public Relations stated this in a press release issued on Friday. Fisayo Shoyombo gave more account of his investigation with the illegal oil bunkerers, while accusing the Nigerian army of deliberately compromising his safety when he was in their custody. I will be honest, it is the first time I have genuinely felt my security compromised. I believe the army deliberately, the acting spokesman of the Nigerian army deliberately compromised my security by releasing that statement and linking me to oil bunkers. I was in detention. I made no mention of oil bunkering. Now you've gone to tell illegal bunkers that, look, this guy was on your trail. I am an investigative and undercover journalist. I was investigating illegal oil bunkering. It happened that someone in the security setup was offended that he didn't get bribed because the illegal bunkerers would bribe people in security. One got annoyed and tipped off others. There was no arrest. The Nigerian army did not arrest me. They spotted me, flashed their torch, and I came out and wanted to open a conversation. I didn't show them my ID because the illegal bunkerers had said they had settled everyone and the guys who came were the ones that were not settled, and a conversation was going on to settle them, so I just thought it was a settlement conversation and I came forward. The real grounds of the army were that, 1. I didn't carry them along. I won't deny that I have low trust for Nigerian public institutions. I didn't trust the army. I didn't carry them along, but also known illegal oil bunkerers were bribing different people with various security formations and I would endanger my life by carrying them along if I didn't know who was who. They all felt I was an illegal oil bunkerer, and I played along until they took me to 6th Division. And I thought from then I was speaking with people in offices who were investigating the case. That is when I said I was an undercover journalist and showed them proof. Of course, the press is not free in a number of ways, and one of them is that, especially people in security, don't want to hear the word investigation. Every encounter I have had with the police, the military, once I say, I was investigating, something just changes in them. They don't want the press to do any form of independent work, facile words and in quote.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Former Anambra State Governor and presidential candidate of Labour Party in the last concluded general elections in Nigeria, Peter Obi has said that he was in Yola, the capital of Adamawa State, to deliver a keynote address at the American University of Nigeria, AUN, owned by former Vice President of Nigeria and also the presidential candidate of People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the last elections, Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar had posted a video of him having breakfast at his residence with Peter Obi and his entourage on Saturday morning, causing widespread speculations that both were apparently having a strategical meeting of possible merging together to contest 2027 presidential election in the West Africa country. Peter Obi, in a statement few hours ago, said he was in the state on the invite to deliver the Founders Day keynote at the ceremony. Peter Obi stylishly used part of the first paragraph of the press release to obviously debunk misleading speculations in the public space and went further to sympathize with victims and bereaved families of Niger River boat mishap which led to the killing of dozens of the boat passengers. The statement reads in quote thus, "Today, while traveling to Yola in Adamawa State to deliver the keynote address at the 16th Founders Day lecture, commemorating the 20th anniversary of the American University of Nigeria, AUN, I received the very sad news of a tragic boat mishap. The incident occurred yesterday along the Dambo Ebuchi section of the River Niger, resulting in the loss of many lives. Reports indicate that the boat was carrying approximately 200 individuals, mainly market women and local farmers, transporting their produce to the market. My heart goes out to the families affected by this tragedy. These are already challenging times, and the loss of loved ones only deepens the pain. My sincere prayers are with you all. I also extend my deepest condolences to the government and people of Niger State. May God grant you, and all of us, the strength to endure this profound loss, and may He grant eternal rest to the departed souls. Peter Obi also took to the social media during the week to condemn the wave of insecurity in the country. It is very saddening and heartbreaking that the wave of insecurity has continued to sweep through every part of the country with no end in sight. The situation is even added to the harrowing hardship the people are going through, yet they cannot even sleep with their two eyes closed. More heartbreaking is the fact that our critical infrastructure is often targeted by these merchants of terror who have no regard for human lives. Just a few days ago, I read a harrowing report about the killing of about 30 persons by terrorists in separate attacks on communities in 2 local government areas of Benue State. Yesterday, I was shocked by the reports of the unfortunate terror attack on the motorcycle showroom of Innocent Vehicle Manufacturing in Nnewi, Anambra State, where about 3 members of the staff were also kidnapped. One very pertinent question that has continued to bother every well-meaning Nigerian is, where are we headed as a nation with this level of insecurity? It is even more worrisome and discouraging that, in the face of the severe economic hardship facing our nation, our productive business facilities are attacked. This is a time when foreign investors are leaving the country in their numbers. Our few resilient local investors still have to face a frightening level of insecurity and other challenges for them to remain in business. We must not continue to allow this mindless waste of human lives and attack on our businesses and critical infrastructure across the country. We must end this monster of insecurity before we are all consumed. I sincerely commiserate with all the victims of the terror attack in Benue and every part of our nation. I also sympathize with Chief Innocent Chukwuma over the attack on his business facility. I urge the security agents to do their best in rescuing the kidnapped workers. Again, we must end insecurity in our nation before it ends us, Peter Obi stated. Some Nigerians, after seeing the video of Peter Obi breakfast meeting with Atiku Abubakar, took to the comment sections of the politicians to say that if Atiku and other heavyweight political actors in the northern Nigeria support Peter Obi for 2027 presidency, the win is sold. Another group of Nigerians said both of them should form alliance and float a new political party to be able to unseat President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027.
Bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC in a news release on Friday reported that Federal High Court sitting in Abuja stopped the arraignment of former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Adoza Bello after the former governor told the court he was not yet prepared for the case. According to Yahaya Bello, he was yet to mobilize his legal team for the 80.2 billion naira's money laundering allegations, hence he told the court he should be given more time to prepare for the case. Details of the EFCC news release reads below verbatim. A federal high court sitting in Abuja has slated the arraignment of the former Kogi State Governor, Yahaya Adoza Bello, for December 13, 2024. Justice Emeka Nwite on Friday, November 29, 2024 directed the court's registrar to issue a hearing notice to Bello's legal team regarding his arraignment. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC is prosecuting Bello on 19-count charge of money laundering to the tune of 80.2 billion nairas. Addressing the court about the former governor's presence in court, prosecution counsel Kemi Pinheiro San urged the court to proceed with the arraignment, stating that the defendant's presence satisfied the legal requirement for the process. In view of his physical presence in court and relying on sections 271 to 277 and section 392 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act (ACJA), I respectfully apply that the charge be read to the defendant, his plea be taken, and my lordship adjourned for further proceedings, he said. He referenced 2 Court of Appeal rulings, dated August 20, 2024, which upheld a defendant's presence in court as satisfactory enough for his arraignment. and further buttressed his position with the fact that Bello had failed to appear in court on several occasions, prompting an application for his trial in absentia. Bello, in his response, informed the court that he had not mobilized his legal team on the arraignment and pleaded for time to do so. Justice Iwite, in a short ruling, adjourned to December 13, 2024 to enable the prosecution to serve the defendant's counsel with the necessary processes. In addition, the court directed the registrar to issue a hearing notice to Bello's legal team and ordered that the former governor be remanded in the custody of the EFCC.
Usifo Ataga, bringing you the news in a more digital way.
Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC on Wednesday reported new charges included in the corruption case against former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, totaling 16, but on Thursday, EFCC has added more 3 fresh charges to scale up the charges to 19 counts since the fleeing former governor submitted himself for prosecution on Tuesday. Court reporters have filed in reports on Thursday morning that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission EFCC will today arraign former Kogi State Governor Alhaji Yahaya Adoza Bello on fresh charges of alleged money laundering. Scheduled to appear before Justice Emeka Iwite at the Federal High Court in Abuja, Bello faces a 19-count corrupt practices indictment while he was the governor of Kogi State. The arraignment, originally slated for January 27 next year, was brought forward after Bello presented himself at the EFCC. On November 27, 2024, Bello was arraigned before High Court in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, on 16-count charges of alleged breach of trust, which he denied. Bello on Tuesday told the court that it was necessary to prepare for his defense and sought for bail. Justice Marian Aneni, who presided over the case, reserved ruling on the bail application until December 10 and remanded Bello and 2 co-defendants in EFCC custody pending the decision. Before now, EFCC had declared wanted the former governor over allegations that the former governor was sending money out of Kogi State government coffers to foreign exchange marketers to convert the state funds to dollar for the payment of his children's school fees. Details of some of the new charges against Yahaya Bello as stated in the EFCC news release on Wednesday with caption, EFCC arraigns Yahaya Bello for alleged 110.4 billion naira fraud, reads in full below. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, on Wednesday, November 27, 2024, arraigned a former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Adoza Bello before Justice Marian Aneni of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT High Court, Maitama, Abuja. He was arraigned alongside Umashwaibu Oricha and Abdulsalami Hudu on a 16-count charge bordering on criminal breach of trust and money laundering to the tune of 110.4 billion naira. Count 11 of the charge reads that Yahaya Adoza Bello, Umashwaibu Oricha and Abdulsalami Hudu sometime 2022, in Abuja, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, whilst having dominion over the state's treasury, dishonestly used the total sum of 5,698,888 dirhams for the acquisition of a property located at Hotel Apartment Community, Burj Khalifa, Line, B and situate at plot 160, Municipality number 3457562, Skyview Building No 401, Floor 4, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, UAE. Count 16 reads that Yahaya Adoza Bello sometime between 2017 and 2018, in Abuja, within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, had under your control the total sum of 677 nairas, 847,677,848,000 naira unlawfully obtained from Bespoke Business Solution Limited. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges when they were read to them. Following their pleas, EFCC counsel, Kemi Pinheiro-san, informed the court of the prosecution's readiness to commence trial. However, counsel for the first and second defendants, Joseph Daudu-San, moved an application for bail for his clients. Pinheiro opposed the application, arguing that it predated the arraignment of the defendants and was therefore premature, hasty and procedurally flawed. Daudu had clarified that the bail application before the court was dated November 22, 2024, and urged the court to admit Bello to bail. My lord, the application is supported by a written address and exhibits, including Exhibit A, which demonstrates that the first defendant responded to the court's public summons. His appearance today signifies his commitment to stand trial. He cited sections 378, 2, and 371 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act (ACJA) in support of the bail application. In response, Pinheiro reminded the court that the bail applications only become relevant after arraignment when the court assumes full jurisdiction over the defendant. The application before your lordship was filed on November 22nd, before the defendant submitted himself to the court's jurisdiction this morning. This renders the application hasty and incompetent. The EFCC's counsel also highlighted Bello's alleged history of disregarding court summons and judicial processes. The records before this court demonstrate bad conduct. The first defendant has treated previous court orders with disdain, including failing to appear before the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal. This conduct punctures his claim of good behavior and commitment to justice. Pinheiro further emphasized the gravity of the allegations, stressing that this case involves over 130 billion naira in public funds, alleged to have been used to acquire properties across Abuja and other locations. Given the defendant's political influence, granting bail poses a significant risk to the integrity of the trial. Counsel to the third defendant also moved for bail, arguing that the application was competent and should be granted. However, Pinheiro opposed, pointing out that the third defendant, who served as a cashier during the alleged fraud and is now a permanent secretary, remains in a position to influence witnesses or repeat the offense. My lord, witnesses in this case are civil servants and subordinates of the third defendant. His continued liberty poses a significant risk to the trial process, he said. Similarly, Pinheiro opposed bail for the second defendant, is still in government service, stating, My lord, the second defendant is still the Director General at the Government House, the same office implicated in this case. His position creates a likelihood of further interference in the investigation and trial. Justice Aneni ordered that the defendants be remanded in EFCC custody and adjourned the hearing of the bail applications to December 10, 2024.
Usifo Ataga, bringing you the news in a more digital way.